All right, welcome back with a quick little review here, this time for Southeast Asia. As we get closer to the end of this season, I believe we only have like 3 more series in each division for Southeast Asia, and pretty much every region from this point forward. So, and just a heads up, if there are any tiebreakers for any region whatsoever, I'm going to be previewing those beforehand. That way you guys will always be in the loop with what's going on, no matter which region you pay attention to. So starting off with this, as per usual, going to be starting off with the matches in the past week. Starting off on January 12th, we had Tnc Predator taking down OB.Neon. And this was one that was especially alarming to me. You guys probably have seen my power rankings that I made yesterday. It was especially alarming to me from the perspective of OB.Neon because, of course, they had won the series before this against T1, which I thought was really, really impressive. And outside of the DPC, OB.Neon has been performing very, very well. They just haven't really been getting the results in the DPC. And so I thought after that series win over T1, maybe the hype is real. Maybe they're going to start turning things around. And then they failed to even take a game off of Tnc Predator, who to that point hadn't had a single series win and was really struggling to make any sort of impression on this upper division so far. Tnc had been having a very, very rough upper division run so far. So again, for OB.Neon, it was pretty disappointing for me to see this series and see them lose 2-0, but regardless, Tnc, it was a nice win for them. Unfortunately, it does not help them stay in the upper division. They are still going to be getting relegated, but as for the other team, we don't know who that's going to be yet. Later that day, we had T1 taking down Execration 2-0. Execration starting to go on a little bit of a downward spiral after having a pretty solid start to the season. They, of course, started off their season playing against OB.Neon and Tnc Predator, the two weaker teams in the division, which they won both of those series. But ever since then, it looks like Execration has been really failing to keep up with some of the better teams in the region, and it shows in the fact that they have been dropping consistently in the standings. Following that, January 13th, we had SMG versus Tnc Predator. SMG getting a nice win there, 2-1. Not necessarily the most convincing series win, but they always end off stronger than they start. Their game 3 was under 30 minutes, very dominant, very good showing. And it would be the same case for the next day when they took down OB.Neon, the same fashion. Both game 1 and 2 were a little bit, one-sided based on which team was winning. But then in game 3, it was just SMG utterly dominating the other team. And so SMG, they get back-to-back series wins there, keeping themselves in contention for that major spot. And then finally, ending things off just earlier today, depending on which time zone you're in, on January 15th, we had Fnatic taking down Execration 2-0. Again, Fnatic starting to get themselves back into shape, and Execration having a little bit of a falter, a little bit of a downward spiral, very similar to Motivate Gaming that we've been seeing the past few weeks. And then T1 versus Boom, which was a series I was very, very much looking forward to. It didn't end up going to 3 games like I was really hoping it would. Of course, these two teams are likely the 2 strongest teams in the region, or at least most consistently. But yeah, this was a fantastic series. I think Boom maybe was outplaying themselves more than anything, especially in that game 1 where they had a lot of opportunities where they were leading and they were really controlling the game, and they even had the matchup advantages of the cores where they had the Phantom Lancer versus the Terrorblade. It looked very good for them, but then they just kind of gave T1 too much leverage. They started losing form, their team fights got a little bit sloppy, and a team as good as T1, even if they have had their falters this season, are going to exploit that, and they did, and T1 looked fantastic in this series. Again, I was really hoping it would go to 3 games, but all in all, we still got to see some great Dota from 2 of the strongest teams in the region. T1 takes this series 2-0 in pretty convincing fashion, again, playing from behind in game 1. All around fantastic series. Now taking a look at the standings, tied for first place, as I just mentioned, we have T1 and Boom, who are now both 5-1 so far. Neither of them have yet to secure a major spot, as the teams behind them are still capable of catching up to them, but with their last series, T1 is actually taking on Fnatic on the 19th, so if they win that, they are securing a major spot, and Boom is taking on Execration, who again has been on a bit of a downward trajectory, so not going to call anything too far in advance here, but Boom should very likely be attending the first major. Following that, in third place, we have SMG. Again, SMG getting back-to-back wins this week definitely helps with their record being 5-2 now. That is their final record. They are done for the season. We have Fnatic, who drops down 1 spot, but they are 4-2 as well. They only dropped down because SMG had 2 series this week, where Fnatic only had 1. But Fnatic still has one more series, meaning they still have a chance to get up to 5 series wins. Again, that is going to be that is going to be against T1, so it is going to be a very, very tough challenge for Fnatic to squeeze their way into the top 3. But again, it is still possible. Following that, staying in 5th place from last week, we have Execration, who is 2-4 currently. Motivate is tied with them as well at a 2-4 record. In 7th place, we have OB.Neon, who is 1-5. And again, in last place, we have Tnc Predator, who are now completely finished their season, or their tour, I should say. They are getting relegated with a 1-6 record, that only win being over OB.Neon. So, again, it's really a case of the top half teams all fighting for those 3 spots and the bottom half teams all trying to avoid relegation. For OB.Neon, it is still possible for them to catch up to Execration and Motivate. Again, Execration is playing against T1, which, again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. Sorry, not T1, they're playing against Boom. So it's very likely that Execration does end up taking a loss there, which could work to OB.Neon's advantage. And for Motivate, they actually play against OB.Neon. So the OB.Neon's fate essentially lies in that series. If they manage to take down Motivate Gaming, then there will be tiebreakers to see who gets relegated. If they lose that one, then Motivate is secured that spot in the upper division. So I think it's pretty intense when this is coming down. That's going to be on the 20th. So I'm excited for that one. Now, taking a look at some stats here, there have been 55 matches played in total in this region, in this division, 34 of those being Radiant wins, a very high amount for 55 games, 21 wins on Dire, 36 wins on first pick, and 19 on last pick. So almost a 66% win rate there for first pick. For top heroes, we have Batrider, who is 5-0, Pangolier, who is 10-2, and Wraith King, who is 12-4, who notably we even saw played in the offlane position earlier today by Cuckoo in that T1 series against Boom. He played it up against a Phantom Lancer. He had a very, very nice Radiance build that we haven't been seeing too much for the Wraith King, but it made a lot of sense in that game, and he made it look really, really good too. So all around, the hero's been looking pretty fantastic. As for worst heroes, Gyrocopter 0-5. We have Storm Spirit, Lifestealer, and Nyx, who are all 1-5. Notably, that Storm Spirit, that only win that he's had so far was against Boom earlier today by T1. Carl, again, looking fantastic on the hero. And then Spirit Breaker 2-9, one of the more popular heroes of the patch, not having a whole lot of success in this region. For most banned, we have Monkey King with 40, Weaver with 32, and Kunkka with 31. For top GPM teams, T1 leads the way with 24-30, then Fnatic with 23-29, and SMG with 22-10. For top XPM, we have T1 with exactly 3,000, Fnatic with 27-63, and SMG with 27-04. And finally, for top KDA, we have T1 leading the way with 5.5, then Boom with 4.46, and Fnatic with 4.0. So Boom, again, despite being one of the best teams, only showing up once, and that is for the KDA here. Again, usually because of how dominant they've been playing, their matches don't tend to be as long in length, so there's not as much time to accrue as much GPM and XPM for the team overall. That's not to say that the team hasn't been playing well. They've been playing very, very well. For top players now, GPM 23 Savage leads the way with 683. We then have Raven with 664 and Carl with 647. For top XPM, Carl leads the way with 762. Then 23 Savage with 726 and Mid One with 703. And then finally for top KDA, 23 Savage showing up once again with an 8.87, very impressive. We have Yopaj then with 7.24 and Carl with 6.88. So yeah, for two of the teams in this division, that being Tnc Predator and SMG, that is it for the tour. SMG now has to rely on Fnatic losing their next series, which again is against T1 if they want to make it to the major. If Fnatic does end up winning that series, then there very likely will be tiebreakers, which I'm very much looking forward to. And again, same thing for the lower division. If OB.Neon takes down Motivate, there will be tiebreakers to figure out who the other team going home is. So I'm very excited for that. And again, if there are any tiebreakers, I will make a preview video for each and every region and each and every division. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, all right, now moving on to the lower division. Again, doing this a little bit more quickly than usual, especially because there are a lot more matches in the lower division and in the upper division too for this past week, just because of the fact that we had some matches postponed due to technical difficulty before the Christmas break. Starting off on January 10th, we had Polaris taking down Army Geniuses 2-0. Again, Polaris really cementing themselves as one of the stronger teams in the region here. Ragdoll then taking down Lil Gun 2-1, same thing for Ragdoll. Talon taking down 496. Again, Talon has had a really up and down season. It feels like for every time they win, they then accompany that with a loss in the next series. They've been struggling quite a bit, and I'm sure they're looking for a little bit of a turnaround. One thing that I'm curious about for Talon is Do we see them go through roster changes for the next tour? Obviously, things haven't been working out despite the fact that the individual skill is clearly there, but the team just hasn't really felt like it's been gelling together all that well. So will we see any changes? Following that, January 13th, we have Army Geniuses taking down Interactive Philippines to this point, who have been having a pretty rough season. We have Nigma taking down Ragdoll. This was a series I was very much looking forward to because heading into this, both of these teams were undefeated and were tied for first place with Polaris in the division. Nigma takes this one 2-0. They look very dominant in that series. Not to take anything away from Ragdoll, they've obviously been having themselves a fantastic season as well. But it was a series that I was very impressed by for Team Nigma. Following that, on January 14th, we had Lil Gun taking down Talon 2-0. So again, for every time Talon wins, it feels like they then lose the next series. And then Polaris on January 15th taking down Nigma 2-1. So again, both of these teams to this point were undefeated. It was a very close series, goes to 3 games, but Polaris ends up taking it. And that is why they are now leading the way on the standings with a 6-0 record. Their last series is going to be against Ragdoll, who again is one of the other top teams, which means that if Ragdoll takes that series, we are very likely going to have a 3-way tie once again for the first and second place slots in the lower division. Dropping down to second place with 1 loss each this week, we have Nigma and Ragdoll, who are 5-1 so far. In fourth place, we have Lil Gun, who is 3-3, and fifth place, we have Talon, who is completely done their tour now, who is 3-4. Both of those teams are secured for the lower division for the next tour. They will not be getting relegated, but they also will not be getting bumped up. On sixth place, we have Army Geniuses, who are also done their tour so far. They are 2-5. Not the best, but we're hoping that they don't end up getting relegated because 496 is sitting at a 1-5 record, meaning that if they win their next series, they can catch up to Army Geniuses and force a tiebreaker. I unfortunately forgot to check who they were playing for the last series, but again, the opportunity for them to catch up to Army Geniuses is still there. And for Interactive Philippines, they also have 1 series remaining, and they have yet to win one so far. Not to say that they haven't had their highlights at certain points, they have looked good, but it feels like they definitely are getting relegated at this point, unfortunately. Now, taking a look at some stats, there have been 62 matches played in total in Southeast Asia's lower division, 36 of those being Radiant wins, 26 on Dire, then 30 wins on first pick, and 32 on last pick. For top heroes, we have Lion, who's been picked 18 times, very, very high, with a 14-4 win rate. We then have Morana, who is 10-5, and Templar, who is 10-2. For worst heroes, we have Disruptor and Rubik, who are 0-4, Razor, who is 1-8, and Timbersaw, who is 2-8 so far. And for most banned, Weaver with 42, OD with 35, and Bane with 33. For top teams now, when it comes to GPM, we have Nigma leading the way with 24.96, then Polaris with 24.26, and then Ragdoll with 23.39. For top XPM, Polaris leads the way with 29.91, very, very high. We then have Nigma with 29.57, again, very high, and then Talon showing up with 28.55. And then finally, for top KDA, Ragdoll with 4.71, Polaris with 4.46, and Talon with 4.21. For top players now, Gabby leads the way in GPM with 730. We then have VT Faded from Ragdoll with 681, and then Natsumi from Polaris with 677. Then for XPM, we have Gabby with 743. We then have Natsumi with 738, and Alacrity from Nigma with 721. And then finally for top KDA, Ajit leads the way. Following that, we have Natsumi and Gabby. I apparently forgot to write the actual KDAs down there, but that is the order in which the leaderboards go. So yeah, again, this lower division coming down to the wire. We don't know who's getting bumped up yet. We don't know who the other team getting relegated is. I'm really hoping for tiebreakers. Again, that is one of my favorite parts of the tour, when there are cutthroat tiebreakers like this. And I'm really hoping that Polaris loses their next series. Again, not that I have anything against Polaris. It's just so that there's more of a chance that we have a 3-way tie for that top 2 finish. So yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about any of these matches or any of these divisions or anything I talked about in this video down in the comments down below. As always, feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I'll be talking to you guys tomorrow, where I'll be having my Eastern European review, just like this one, but of course for Eastern Europe. And I'll also be having my lower division preview for the final week of Tour 1 of the winter section of this season, which hopefully is followed up by a major. Fingers crossed. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.